What is Story World?
Story World is another one of those very misunderstood and very underestimated parts of storytelling. Story World has to do with literally the world surrounding the main character. And most people think, especially in screenwriting, that that world is provided by the director because it's all the visuals. Not so. Most of what we see in terms of story world for screenplays, and certainly for novels, has to do with what the writer has written. And it's all different aspects of, it's the entire society, it's all the minor characters, it's the natural settings, it's the various social settings that are created. And what's important for writers to understand is that every story world that you create should be an expression of your hero. Yeah. And vice versa, because they help to define each other. There's tremendous amount of story meaning and power in the world that you surround your hero with. Again, J.K. Rowling is a wonderful example of somebody who has really taught us the power of a very detailed story world.
On a comedy, you would use, again, Tootsie. I guess you love that movie.
Beautifully written, just beautifully crafted. I tried to use as many different kinds of examples as I could in the book. Comedy is often underestimated in terms of how difficult it is to do a good one. Tootsie is, in virtually every aspect, brilliantly written script.
Symbolism is also an important, how to extend what that character represents. And of course, Herman Mankiewicz with the notorious Rosebud, what did it mean, is always Citizen Kane.
Well, symbol is, over the years, has had less and less importance in screenwriting because as screenwriting and as movies have gotten faster, the use of symbols has actually gone down, which I think is a very big mistake because I talk in the book about symbols as being these little jewels in the tapestry of the story. They're a mark of great writing. They're an aspect of the texture of the writing. A lot of writers are good at some of the big picture aspects of laying out the story. But symbol has to do with the little things that make a big difference. And when you see it, the use of a great symbol, for example, in Citizen Kane, then you see how powerful these things can be.
The amazing thing about this book, too, is how you dissect Jane Austen, Emma, Pride and Prejudice, even, you know, just the earliest stages of films.
To me, it was so important to not only include examples that are very recent that everybody will have seen or read, but also to go back to the classic storytellers. You look at Jane Austen, everything she wrote, just a master storyteller. And so what I wanted to do is to break some of her stories down using the techniques that I use and talk about in the book, because I wanted to show writers today that they can still use those same techniques in writing their own stories.
Even to the point of Wuthering Heights, which I had forgotten that Heathcliff comes back and has another sort of goal to destroy the other family.
That's right, that's right. It was probably the major change that the screenwriter made in adapting it to a film. Usually we hear about the fact that, oh, the book is much better than the film. This is an example, I believe, of a film that is better than the book, and that's pretty high. That's pretty high praise for that script. But it's a beautiful script.
John, you just said something earlier about films are faster today. Is that a detriment because we have what I would call TV-educated audience that's used to flash cuts?
It's a detriment in certain ways because what it prevents you from doing is getting the kind of depth, especially in character, that we like to see in great storytelling. And the reason for it is that Hollywood essentially gives us a restriction as screenwriters saying, you've got 2 hours, that's it. And so what they constantly try to do is pack more in that same amount of time. That's why Hollywood has become more plot heavy in the last 10 years, and I talk a lot in the book about how do you add more plot to the limited time that you have. So on the one hand, it forces us to put more plot in our stories. On the other hand, we tend to lose on the other side where we don't have the depth of character and we don't have the detailing in the story world that we should have.
And we don't have the dialogue. I think that's one of the things about American Gangster. Their dialogue between the two of them at the end of that film is something I haven't heard for a long time.
That's right. And this is one of the, I think, great misconceptions about film, where there's a common line that film is a visual medium. Well, on one level it is. Yeah. On the other hand, good talk is really great to see. And when we forget about dialogue and the power that great dialogue can have, and we see these examples of this in Casablanca, Butch Cassidy, and so on. You see, and audiences love great dialogue. So this emphasis on doing everything visually can go too far.